Hi, my name is Hiram Marino.
And I'm Johnny Herrera.
And today we'll be discussing about contract law.
Specifically, option contracts with an exception that follows.
And first we're going to begin with discussing the 3 requirements that an offer requires and also certain examples of contracts we see on everyday life.
In contract law, obviously an offer has to be made. And to understand what an offer is, it needs to require 3 things. 1, it requires intent. Number 2, it needs to be reasonably definite and clear. And number 3, it needs to be communicated.
So now that we know what the 3 requirements for an offer is, we need to understand that a contract can be written in 2 types of ways. It can be either expressed or it can be implied. Expressed is either written or oral, and implied it is taken as is, like in a picture or a diagram. So if we move on over here, we see this TV that says, "This monitor is for educational use only, not to be used for video games or other types of gaming." With that being said, under my contract, I have to follow these guidelines or else there would be consequences and I just breached the contract.
The second form is an implied contract, which is a visual representation of the contract. As you can see here, this shows me that I cannot bring open drinks to public libraries or any other facilities. And if I do, the contract will be breached. We're talking about an option contract, which means an offeree offers money to an offerer in order to keep the offer open. I'll let Hiram show you an example.
So an example for option contract would be this. Here we have Bill and John. John just posted an ad where he wants to sell his SUV van and he has an ad for a certain price. And along comes Bill. He wants to offer John a compensation of about $500 in order for him to keep the offer open. And basically that's what an option contract is. So like we said, the exception with the option contract is, for example, John accepts the compensation he just took with Bill. So they sign a contract. Now that means that John is entitled to the merchant rule.
Merchant rule is an agreement signed by both parties that gives assurance to the offeree that they will receive the good even if a time is stated or not. The offer is irrevocable for up to 3 months. So that means if my friend John here decides to sell the car, he is still required to hold it for Bill up to 3 months.
Yes, whether a compensation was given or not, just by signing that contract, the merchant rule applies every time.
To conclude, we went over contract law today. Some specifics we went over are the 3 things that an offer requires. That is, it needs to be definite and clear, it needs to have intent, and it needs to be communicated. We also went over option contract, the definition of it, and an example, and also an exception that followed.
We also went over express terms and implied terms, meaning the examples we gave you with the TV and the sign on the wall.
Just remember, in everyday life, there is always, if you sign yourself for a contract, you must follow it or you will have to face the consequences.